Hello there, I'm Benjinator12 and I am finally back, as I promised, with a review of the 1/144th high-grade Universal Century The O. Now this is a model kit I've meant to get for quite some time and share with you guys. I'm really excited to because I looked around and I haven't really been able to find a lot of good reviews on it. So I just wanted to do something quick and comprehensive. Okay, maybe not quick, but definitely comprehensive, and I want to be able to point out a lot of things about this, which is maybe a little bit overlooked. I think this is a very interesting kit, especially for the time it came out in. It's doing a lot of things differently. So specifically, this is number 36, I believe. Yes, 36. Number 36 in the high-grade Universal Century series, and it came out in 2002, so very early on in the series. I'm a big fan of the design of the suit because of its heft and bulk, and I like hefty and bulky mobile suits, and this is probably the heftiest and bulkiest mobile suit design, normal mobile suit design, as opposed to, say, a mobile armor or anything. And it's just an exquisitely designed kit. To start us off with the color separation, you're first off, you're going to get this, most of the body is in this sort of, it looks like a sand sort of color almost, but it's not. It's like a pale yellow with just a hint of green, like a key lime pie almost, I want to say. Just very unusual color, not a color you see a lot in mobile suits. Inside the front skirts here, you'll see there's these pieces in this lighter grass green as well. You've got red in the hoses, of course, and then you've got this dark grayish with just like a hint of blue going on in there, maybe on the hands, the gun, your joints, and all of these thrusters located throughout the body. And then you get one piece of pink for the mono eye. If I can bring this a little closer. See in there. The oh, that's not in focus. Well, the eye in there is not actually a sticker, as is with most kits. It's a piece of plastic that you sandwich in there while you're building the kit. That means there's no place for a mono eye gimmick, but it does mean it's crisp and you didn't have to apply a sticker. The stickers that actually it comes with are very minimal. You get, for this huge guy, you just get these four. They're red stickers, and they are for detailing these detailing parts right here on the feet. Everything else that isn't provided in plastic, you'll have to paint yourself, of course, and it's pretty minimal. There's like there's nicely sculpted details you could do here. These big vents here on the chest are meant to be black, so you'll have to paint that in. These raised portions on the leg here and also there, I painted those in with Gundam marker, but everything else is as it came. And I think it does a really good job of representing the fine little details in the kit. So as for articulation, now I went and said this is a very interesting, well-done kit for its age, and it is. The few reviews I was able to read for this guy have said that actually the articulation is very bad, and I'm going to point out that that's wrong. It's not that the articulation is bad. In fact, for its time, this thing's articulation is top-notch. The problem comes in that the design of the mobile suit, as bulky as it is, inherently limits what you can do with the articulation. So, the articulation is very good. It's got lots of points of articulation. It's the posability that suffers. The head, as you saw when I popped it off earlier, is on a ball joint that's just built into the torso, so there's no chicken head action. It's actually on a polycap that lets it tilt up pretty far. And of course it can look down and scowl and pretty easily do 360 degrees. Not that you'll ever need him to be looking back at his collar. The arms will easily rotate 360 degrees. They are on one of those peg mechanisms that lets them swing forward and backward, which is actually a great range here. Most kits it just comes forward, but this one does actually get quite a ways backward as well. These boosters on his shoulders here are on a polycap as well. They move out, which allows these flaps on his shoulders to also move out, which allows you to bring his arm out to its maximum height there. It is on a swivel at the shoulder here, which will allow for 360 degrees of rotation, and a 90-degree bend at the elbow. The fist is on a normal ball joint, so nothing unusual there. The torso does twist, though the backpack will start limiting it. There's no stomach joint or anything going on there, just left and right swiveling. The massive front skirts are on a ball joint, and they are separate. They will move up about this far, down about this far, up against the leg, and they will kind of move out. The polycap they're on does not hold them really well, and that's actually an issue we'll get into with the gimmicks later on. As you may know with the design, he's got sub-arms under here, and when we explore that, actually I'll do that now, that makes sense. He has these sub-arms, which flip out, and there's lots of nice detail going on here. Pistons molded in, and a tiny little hand. It can only hold his beam sabers, which I'll get to later, and it can just swivel up forwards and also rotate a little bit. And the hand rotates on its own, but there's not a whole lot of dynamic action going on there. But you can have him holding his swords forward, which is nice. I mean, better they have that than not include it, but on a high grade you would sort of expect that sort of detail. The legs for this guy are really interesting. They're the most interesting part, perhaps. The side skirt they're pegged in there, and they'll move up and down about this much. But the legs they don't have a hip swivel or anything, because that stuff didn't exist. Oh, the back skirt also is articulated and will move a fair amount out of the way. But it's so big, it's always going to be slightly in the way. The legs, as you may see here, have a complete internal frame, which is pretty much unheard of on a high grade. Nowadays, we're starting to see semi-internal frames where there's a couple darkly colored pieces that you'll sandwich the armor on top of that'll sort of form... Oh gosh, this is difficult to get off. But this, as you can see, this is pegged in, this part on the back is pegged into a polycap there, which will allow it to rotate up and down. The front is simply pegged into a raised portion, which I will pop off as well, to better demonstrate to you the internal frame. There we go. Just pops off. So, as you can see here, we've got this internal frame with all of these nice red plastic cables going on. And this guy has an interesting double-jointed leg. This is back when most high grades did not have double-jointed legs, or rather not double joints that did anything productive. As you see, he's got a swivel right there that allows for some forwards, backwards movement. And then he's got another swivel actually in his thigh, which allows it to come forward this far, and with this extended backwards this far. So, double joint there allows him to get a 90-degree bend, which in legs this big and bulky is very impressive. He does not have an ankle joint. There's a ball joint coming off of the lower section of the leg here that just pegs straight into the foot. But the foot, you're going to get some forwards, some backwards, and it's nice with these little loose pipes, red piping pieces that just float around in a little socket there that makes it look like they're moving with the foot, which is really nice. They do fall out. They have a tendency to fall out a lot, and I feel that they probably will by the time the review is over. But it looks good. So the feet can move a little bit forward, a little bit backward. The side-to-side movement is fairly nice, but this guy's feet are so big that you're never going to really have any trouble getting him to stand, even if they're not entirely flat. This guy is as solid as a rock. He is stable, like no model kit I own. So now to put the armor back onto the legs. Actually, yeah, there we go. The front comes on a lot easier than the back. Let me tell you what. Okay, so that about does it for our... Oh, no, wait, there's slightly more articulation, I guess. Can't forget. On his backpack here, if I adjust my camera upwards, his really tall backpack, he's got this fin here. This moves up and down just a little bit. It's just friction. There's no poly cap or anything holding that in. So be careful if you're moving that around. It won't stay like that for long. So that's it for articulation. Like I said, oh, my tripod has broken. Allow me to fix that so that it does not affect the review any more than it already has. Okay. So, in terms of articulation, once again, he's got a good amount of points of articulation. It's just the design that limits it. And I think they did a really admirable job there. You can do some dynamic poses with this guy. He's able to spread his legs fairly far. But mostly you're going to get one leg bent and the other leg extended with, you know, you can kind of get his arms. Oh, that's a hand. Kind of get his arms going forward like he's charging at you and stuff. He'll be leaning slightly, scowling. It's worth noting that in the series, the O is always flying around in space. So technically articulation doesn't really matter all that much because it's not like he's going to be doing big, wide ground poses anyway. But it's worth noting. So in terms of accessories, as you'll see here, he has his beam rifle, which is actually very large. I mean, to think that it's this big compared to him, and he's a fairly big mobile suit. It's got this nice piece of the same yellow plastic running down to form a pipe or a hose. It's this very boxy design. I like it a lot. It looks great on him. And it is a little bit tricky to fit into his crook of his arm, but he can do it. And it looks good sort of sticking ahead of him. He sort of looks like a tank, and I like to almost imagine this is almost like his tank barrel. It seems that, you know, tucked into his arm there is the natural way for him to hold it. And him sliding about, firing it as he goes, really seems very appropriate with his big turret-like body. Just such a cool design. In terms of his other accessories, there are not a whole lot, but they are pretty darn cool. I'm popping off the side skirt here to show you that in each side skirt is 2 beam saber handles. Now they're in there fairly tight. It's a tight fit. But I'll pull one out to show you. There are 4 in total, 2 in each of the side skirts. And they have these nice long handles. You get, with the kit, 4 long, exceptionally long, curved yellow beams, which I've never seen on any other kit. I'm not sure where they're from, what the deal is, but they simply peg in. They peg in extremely tightly. And there you have his beam saber, which is very large and looks just great with him holding it. But of course, with the fairly movable arms, you can get some great slashing, some preparing to slash moves. And of course, what you want to know is that you can use the beam sabers, if I pull another one out, with the subarm, which I showed you earlier. The subarm, you just flip it on out. And the beam saber can just slip down in there, no disassembly required. Let's see if I can... There we go. Pop your beam in. And now he is ready to fight you with many, many beam sabers at once. Now, regrettably, those subarms cannot actually hold his beam rifle, like what you've seen in maybe some Gundam Musou games, which I was a little disappointed to find that. I was really hoping that he could hold the beam rifle with the subarms so that he could have beam sabers in both of his hands and be fully armed, but it's okay. And that really covers it for the accessories. So you get 4 of these beams. You get, of course, another hand, a open fist to hold another beam saber for the left hand, or the right, rather, sorry. I'm bad with left and right. It's the right hand, and that's it. That's all you got. Overall final verdict, I know a lot of people, this is a sort of polarizing design. It's very big, very bulky, as I've already said. That's what I happen to like. But if you're a fan of it too, this is not a bad kit at all. You're getting a lot for the money that it goes for nowadays. It's depreciated in value a fair amount, so you can get it for really fair prices. And I think that this is definitely worth a buy if you're a fan of Paptimus Scirocco. Well, I mean, he's evil and a jerk, but I mean, if you like the character, if you're a fan of Zeta Gundam, this is definitely a worthwhile kit. It's just proportioned excellently. The accessories do what you think they should. There's a great deal of plastic separation. It's not bad in terms of if you're not a fan of putting on stickers, there's not a lot to worry about, and even then there's not a lot to worry about painting. It's just a really great kit, whether you're a collector, a beginning modeler, or a seasoned veteran of modeling and you want to do some painting and stuff. There's something for everybody in this kit. So I have to highly recommend the high-grade Universal Century The O if you're a fan of the design. If not, man, don't bother. But this is a great kit for people who love bulky mobile suits. It's a wonderful painter's canvas. It's just got everything going for it. And it's interesting to see what Bandai can do when they've got this much plastic to work with early on in the high-grade Universal Century series. If something were to come out like this today, with today's engineering standards, I'm sure it'd be unbelievably cool too. But I think it's just so cool that they were able to do what they did with this kit back then. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this review, and there's more to come. So thank you very much. This is Benjinator 12, and I'll see you next time.